Standards covered. Filipinos rebel against U.S. rule. American leaders wanted a presence in the Pacific to gain new trade in Asia. Emilio Aguinaldo thought the U.S. was an ally for Filipino independence until the U.S. maintained control when the Spanish were gone. There's a picture of Emilio. He led an insurrection against the U.S. using guerrilla tactics. The U.S. used extreme measures to squash the rebels. General Jacob Smith said, "I wish you to kill," these are his orders to his men, "I wish you to kill and burn. The more you kill and burn, the better you will please me." Not an overly friendly guy. Here is the front page of the Evening Journal. Kill everyone over 10. Obviously, that's not going to leave us with a lot of friends in the region. In the spring of 1901, U.S. forces capture Aguinaldo. His capture marks the beginning of the end of the insurrection. 5,000 Americans and 200,000 Filipinos died in the fighting. That probably would be because we had superior weapons. In 1901, William Taft became governor of the Philippines. He censored the press and jailed dissidents. At the same time, he built schools, hospitals, and bridges and allowed limited self-rule. There's a picture of him in the Philippines. Again, he was the large man. 1916, Congress passed the Jones Act promising eventual Philippine independence. It comes in 1946 after Japanese forces are defeated. The U.S. pursues interests in China. Rather than compete for Chinese trade, Britain, France, and Germany and Russia are carved into spheres of influence. Here you can see where their sphere of influence is. The Germans at Shantung. I'm not going to pronounce those. You can see it. John Hay, Secretary of State, notified leaders of imperialistic nations the U.S. expected equal treatment in commerce. In response to growing outsider influence, some Chinese forces joined secret societies, the Righteous and Harmonious Fists, also known as Boxers, because they used martial arts, killed foreign missionaries, and took control of the diplomatic district in Beijing. This was known as the Boxer Rebellion.
The Boxer Rebellion became the first major war to erupt in the new century. Hostilities that had been simmering for decades exploded when China declared war against the foreign powers of France, Russia, England, Japan, Austria, Italy, Germany, and the United States. The beginning of the 20th century found the 2,000-year-old Chinese empire in decline. Foreign powers descended like vultures on what was left of the dying Manchu dynasty. The once powerful Chinese people fumed as they saw their land and protectorates taken over by foreigners. Hong Kong and Burma were lost to England, Korea to Japan, and Vietnam to France. As the power structure within the Manchu court struggled to maintain its tenuous control within China, foreign encroachment intensified internal political conflicts. What had been an ancient, closed society was threatened by the corruption of progress and foreign influence. The Chinese became distrustful of foreigners and were greatly concerned by the influx of Christian missionaries who converted an increasing number of Chinese to an alien religion. A campaign of terror had begun the previous year when a secret organization called the Boxers began killing Christian missionaries and their converts in the northern provinces of China. The Boxers were a clandestine social society that had been in existence since the early 1700s. The group preached a mixture of Buddhist, Confucian, and Taoist ideas and was rabidly opposed to any change in ancient culture. Members practiced a form of shadow boxing and believed that followers of the cult were invulnerable. In May of 1900, the Boxers killed 4 French and Belgian railway engineers. This was followed by the murder of the Japanese chancellor in Peking. The foreign powers responded by sending ships and troops to China. The imperial court had initially condemned the Boxer violence and had sent government troops to quell the uprising. But the ruling Dowager Empress, Cixi, was eventually won over to the Boxer cause as a result of foreign attacks on Chinese forts, and the rumor that the foreign powers wanted to return their deposed nephew to power. On June 20th, the Boxers invaded Peking, brandishing spears, topped with the heads of murdered missionaries. They laid siege to the foreign legations, where almost 1,000 foreigners and 3,000 Chinese Christians had taken refuge. On August 4th, an international force of 20,000 headed for Peking to rescue the besieged legations. Although the Boxer troops in the Peking area were estimated at 360,000, the international force broke through the lines after 2 weeks of heavy fighting. 54 days after the siege began, the foreign legation was rescued. The imperial court fled Peking, and the Boxers were eventually forced to surrender.
John Hay reasserts America's open-door policy, stating the U.S. wanted to maintain Chinese control of the region, but the U.S. wanted free trade with China. Tensions rise between America and Japan. In 1904, Japan attacks the Russian military presence in Manchuria and the Russian fleet stationed at Port Arthur, China. The Russians lost over 100,000, and the Japanese suffered heavily also. In 1905, Teddy Roosevelt negotiated a peace treaty ending the Russo-Japanese War and wins the Nobel Peace Prize because of it. The U.S. gets into trouble with Japanese because of the segregated schools in San Francisco. Teddy Roosevelt calms them with the gentleman's agreement, ending the segregation, and Japan agreed to limit the number of people immigrating to the U.S. Teddy Roosevelt eased tension, but weary of Japanese imperialism, promoted military preparedness. Teddy Roosevelt won congressional support for the new force of Navy ships known as the Great White Fleet.